Sometimes I try to do things and it just doesn't work out the way I wanted it to. And I get real frustrated and it's like, and I try real hard to do it and take my time. And it just doesn't work out the way I want it to. It's like I concentrate on it real hard and it just doesn't work out. And everything I do and everything I try, it never turns out. It's like I need time to figure these things out. But there's always someone going, hey, Mike, you know why we've been noticing you seem to be having a lot of problems lately, you know? And maybe you should get away and maybe you should talk about it. You'll feel a lot better. And I go, no, it's okay. You know, I'll figure it out. Just leave me alone and I'll figure it out, you know? And I'll just work on it myself. And they go, well, you know, if you want to talk about it, I'll be here, you know? And you'll probably feel a lot better if you talk about it. So don't you want to talk about it, you know? And I go, no, I don't want to. I'm okay. I'll figure it out myself. And they keep bugging me, and they just keep bugging me, and it builds up inside.
Hello and welcome to the Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rude. I am Austin Rude, and I'm the son.
I'm Phil Rude, and I'm the dad. Each week we watch a movie, and we get on the mic and talk about it.
That's right, that's what we do here.
That is what we do. This is weird.
Yeah. Switched it up.
It's like backwards day.
It's gonna keep being backwards day.
I like it.
All right.
It's like a new pair of pants. I know it looks good. I know it'll fit good. I just have to get used to it.
We don't know. I could fumble the ball.
Yeah, we'll see. We're doing okay.
All right.
So far, so good.
I don't know, man. Rocky waters. Do you want to talk about what we're doing differently this season in case people have missed our season 3 promo? Which, if that's the case, what are you doing with your life?
Seriously, guys, get it together. We got a whole feed full of stuff. But if you are just stumbling on us, if you found this link on Twitter, we're brand new to you. This is our 3rd season. We're kicking it off with this episode. And season 3, we've not done this other seasons, but we are doing something different here. We're doing trilogies. Season 3, great movies come in threes. It's a numerology thing. Yeah.
It's a fun gimmick.
Yeah. I don't like the word gimmick. I think gimmick seems cheap. I'm going to call it a theme.
I like it. It's a little camp.
Or a concept.
I don't take that as an insult. It's a fun
gimmick seems
thing
like
we're
cheap
doing.
Marketing where
Okay.
Concept I'll give you like the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's album or the Traveling Wilburys. These were concept albums, concept bands that were centered around what is essentially a gimmick, but more like a artistic performance. An expression of some way.
You heard it here first, folks. We are exactly like the Beatles.
That's right. We're the Beatles of podcasting.
I think it's going to be fun to try something different.
I do as well. We're kicking it off today with the first movie in the first of our trilogies, which is your pick. This trilogy was your pick. Why don't you introduce it?
It was. We are talking today about the 2011 sci-fi action movie Rise of the Fall of the Beginning of the Start of the Planet of the Apes.
Of Beneath the Return of the Escape from the Planet.
It's a ridiculous title. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. This movie follows Will Rodman, played by James Franco, and his part in the upcoming Apocalypse.
Ooh, very clever.
Will is a pharmaceutical chemist working for Genesis on a project that will find a cure for Alzheimer's. When the project is shut down, Will adopts a genetically modified baby ape and runs illegal drug tests on his father. Because what could possibly go wrong with that?
Untested drugs on human subjects, I don't see any way we could miss.
There's a lot of ethical science in this movie.
Yeah.
But alongside James Franco, this movie also stars John Lithgow, Lithgow, Brian Cox, Frida Pinto, Tom Felton, and the incredible Andy Serkis as Caesar. The movie is written by Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver, and it's directed by Rupert Wyatt.
Indeed.
That is this movie.
I like your joke about the name, the prequel name, or the movie name.
This trilogy is an interesting. They really messed up the titles.
Okay, but this is where I'm gonna go. Is you just said it? This trilogy is bad naming convention. The entire Planet of the Apes series is a bad. None of them are numbered. They're all Escape From, Beneath, Battle For, Return To. Like, there's all these, and nobody knows which order they go in. We have to Wikipedia these things.
Right.
So this does sort of continue that tradition of that, but it also continues the tradition of confusing the audience as to what each one of them is called. We all know them as 1, 2, and 3, but
it would be.
it's really
you
weird.
know, I get it because they were kind of handed it like this.
Sure.
The naming system was already flawed, but they really picked weird ones to go by. It's Rise, Dawn, and War. I can never remember if Rise or Dawn comes first
You
because
would
they're
think
synonyms.
this is they are synonyms, but Rise would be like the rising, the revolt, which happens more in the second movie.
Right.
I would think the dawn, the very beginning, this would be the dawn of a new era of it. I feel like they backwards those. And then the last one is War, which I think fits pretty well.
Yeah, that one's good.
But yeah, these two, I always get confused. I never know which one is which one comes first. All I know is the one with James Franco in it and the one with Gary Oldman in it.
I mean, that is great milestones there to kind of differentiate. Let's start with just the trilogy in general. How do you view this trilogy? Like, do you like it?
I like it a lot, yeah. I love the original 1968, I want to say.
Sounds right.
It might be actually earlier than that. The Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes. I think it is a science fiction classic, legitimately. You can call it campy, but that just comes from its time. It's a legitimately disturbing and thrilling kind of suspense, a morality tale.
And kind of it set the standard. It like innovated a lot of things.
I think it moved the needle on science fiction a lot. I think it made science fiction be taken more seriously. It was a big milestone for Rod Serling, who wrote the original.
Like his career took off after
yeah,
that?
I don't know. He had been making The Twilight Zone, I think, at the same time, or maybe that kicked him into it. I'm not sure. But either way, like, that ending is such a Twilight Zone ending. But I'm a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the rest of the original series. I've seen parts of all the rest of them. I don't think I've ever seen a single sequel to that all the way through. But I've seen all of the new series. I've seen them theatrically. We own them. I really enjoy this series. I really think this is a good set of prequels that is also a good series of movies in their own right. They don't have to act strictly as a prequel to this existing series. This could be a standalone set of movies.
Yeah, it does a good job being on its own. I think I agree with you. I've only seen the original Planet of the Apes, and then the prequel trilogy.
That's really all you need to see.
I mean, I can't speak for that, but the internet does seem to agree with you there.
Yeah, it's a good movie that I think then they saw franchise potential in and just kicked out a bunch of cheap sequels.
It's a Planet of the Apes. There's a bunch of stuff you can do there.
Sure.
But I've seen each of the prequels kind of like multiple times, but I've never watched them like next to each other. I've never watched them in an order in like close memory. So they all feel very distinct.
Yeah.
So this is going to be my first time kind of watching them all the way through and looking at it as like one big story.
As a series, as a
Yeah.
beginning to end of Caesar. I don't know if I've watched them all in a row either. I'm sure I have, or I've watched them close, but I don't remember if I've specifically sat down to do that. So
Right.
I think I'll probably be looking at it in a really similar way. How do you feel about, I mean, that's the series in general. Let's talk about this movie. And what I want to do with this trilogy thing is sort of take it movie by movie, and then on the third movie, we'll have a section to discuss how the three movies work cohesively or
Yeah.
not.
I mean, that makes the most sense because right now we've only watched the first one,
Yeah.
so we can review the first
So
one.
I want to take this one at a time.
Uh,
But let's talk about this movie. How do you feel about this? And how do you feel about it like beforehand, and how did you feel on this rewatch? Because I don't know about you. I have not watched this in at least a few years.
Same. I did not remember much of the details.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, like, I really kind of forgot it once it, like, I remember it, like, being excited, and then the sequels to this movie came out, and, like, I was all about those, but, like, I never went back and watched this one other than, like, I think I saw it, like, 2 times after its release, and that was kind of just it.
Yeah.
I want to start off, this is a very enjoyable movie, but I have a lot of critiques. So, like, just keep that in mind, that I found this to be a really nice, awesome action movie. I just feel like it could have been better.
I'll go with you there. I won't even say that it could have been better. I think this movie serves a really specific purpose in setting up Caesar, the origin story of Caesar, and the first step of these apes. And I think it does that in its own kind of contained story. They could have stopped and not made a trilogy. They could have, this actually sort of open-ends it to, oh yeah, the next steps get taken towards,
Right.
you know, what we all know.
You can infer what happens.
But I'll compare this to another I think first movies in trilogies in general are kind of they're not bad. They just are a little slow. They're introducing you to everything. It's the introductory chapter. A lot of times they are good self-contained stories. The first Star Wars, A New Hope, Episode 4. For me, in the original Star Wars trilogy, which I love, and I love each of those individual movies, that's the weakest movie. That's the one I rewatch the least. It's the one I find, it's not boring, but it's not as exciting as the other two. It's a lot of setup in that. It's a lot of introducing the world.
It's Act 1. It doesn't come with that big climax to the franchise.
Exactly. Fellowship of the Ring, I would say, is similar. Very exciting parts. It's a very great movie. It's a big epic movie. But the first half of that movie is so slow because it's just introducing you to every single aspect of this really immersive Tolkien world. And I think this movie kind of has the same thing. It's a really good movie. It's a great first chapter, but it's not as exciting as the other two chapters. So it is sort of my least favorite of the three as I remember them. So it is the one that I rewatch the least as well. And
Right.
so the same thing. I had forgotten a lot of stuff in here too. I forgot that John Lithgow dies. That his Alzheimer's catches up to him. And that he dies of Alzheimer's, essentially, or the mental deterioration.
That feels like a major part of the movie. I don't know how.
It is. But I just, I kind of, it's not that I forgot he was in it, but that he played such a kind of, it's a supporting role, but it is like an important role in like the arc of James Franco's character. And in the arc of Caesar, that he's like bonded with Caesar so much.
He's like the pivotal role for both of them.
Yeah.
I don't know what to call that. Like,
he's like a motivator.
Yeah.
He's not exposition. He's kind of this motivation for Franco pushing his ethics, pushing the ethics of science to the point where he's acting completely unethical because he's acting out of personal reason.
Right, because if this was just some mad scientist, like, I'm gonna kidnap people and test on them, like, I'm not gonna
and it's
care
Human
about
Centipede
that person.
or something like that,
yeah.
you know.
But this is someone who's desperate and he believes in himself and that he can do this and help people.
And I think, namely, that he can help his father, and it pushes him to the point where he goes and he bribes the Brian Cox's character, the animal control guy, the guy who runs a shelter.
Yeah.
He goes and bribes, he's completely lost his ethics, and he's just going, after his father dies, he's like, here, give me him back. I will pay you to have my ape back. You know,
because he can't lose them both.
Yes. You see James Franco actually has this really kind of interesting character arc it's a story of a man losing his way, essentially, because of personal loss.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, really interesting, and it almost gets lost in this movie. I didn't really realize that was Franco's arc until this watch. And I'm like, oh, this is about a guy that loss pushes him out of his ethical box, kind of.
Mm-hmm. And his ties to the lab company, which kind of just starts to ignore him as they push their own agenda.
Right.
I think that's like just a really interesting dynamic.
It is. It's a really it's almost like within at the beginning, within the structure of the pharmaceutical company, James Franco is the ethical high watermark. You know what I mean? Like, he's the guy who's like doing things right. He's, scientific study and, doing the scientific method, doing all the trials. He's, 5 years of research. He's taking his time with it. But it's later on that it's sort of like after he loses that first big accomplishment, when Caesar's mom crashes into the boardroom or whatever and trashes the whole thing. That's when he goes off the rails. That's the thing that pushes him off. And then later on, he's just like spiraling out of control.
Right. And that's also the inciting incident. So it's like, it really is all about him losing control.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I will say, though, is that I wish, and this might sound crazy, but I wish this movie focused more on Caesar. Because I feel like I got the feeling when I was watching it, like...
That does sound crazy, by the way.
Okay, well, I'm crazy then. This movie felt like it was setting up for the sequels. Like, I get that it just felt like very like, okay, we need this to happen, for this to happen, for this to happen, for the apocalypse to happen. And I liked that, and I liked James Franco's character, but there were some things that were like unimportant, and I'm like, it didn't focus on Caesar's emotional aspect enough for me.
Really?
Like, it was there, I just wanted like more screen time of that. Like 10 more minutes of him would have been perfect.
Yeah, I felt like this movie was all about Caesar and all about him sort of losing his connection to humanity. When all he knew at the very beginning was like a loving human family, to the point where the contact he had with humans was abusive. The animal keepers were completely abusive, which, by the way, kind of animal shelter like hires complete psychopaths.
Really messed up.
To work there. And what kind of people who hate animals go and work in an animal shelter? Like,
someone to control, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
That's why I work in a school. No.
Wow. You might want to edit that out.
Okay.
Malfoy and the other guy.
I don't know who the other guy is.
I don't know who the other guy is, but he looks like super familiar. Like, I've seen that guy and stuff before.
In Rise of the Planet of the Apes, maybe?
Maybe, yeah. Okay. I know I've seen him in something. He's some character actor. But, yeah, the whole aspect of him actually being in that prison, for lack of a better word, I think that's a huge, like, emotional journey for Caesar. And I think it's sort of couched in his relationship to the other apes, but as he bonds with them, he is breaking his ties with humanity, and to the point where he's offered to go back home with Franco,
and he refuses. He's completely institutionalized, and he wants to stay with his people. And I think the journey of Caesar is very well defined in this movie, and I think that's kind of the selling point of this movie for me.
I
just feel like I wanted more of like
him handing out cookies to everybody.
That's right.
Being like his
Boy Scouts arc. No, like,
if you want friends, guys.
before he's institutionalized, like, I think what really strikes me is the scene where he's kind of grown up. He's like 3 years old, and they're at the park, and he sees a dog on a leash, and he realizes, he's like, am I a pet?
The beginning of his like self actualization of
I wanted more of that.
You're right. That I will give you, because I think they touch on that when he takes him to the lab and says, you had a mother here. Your mother's dead. Then I brought, he explains, you were born here, and then I brought you home to live with me. You're not the same as me. You're not the same as these other chimps. Like, and I do feel like that was in there as sort of like this token thing, but I almost feel like that was almost more of a thing for like his girlfriend to find out.
Yeah, that she can figure out.
The movie used it more as a tool of his confession to her than his confession to Caesar.
Yeah, this is Caesar's adoption story, okay? Let's give him a little more urgency in that.
But yeah, it's which I did find was really weird, that they'd been together 5 years and he hadn't told her how he had come to have a chimpanzee in his house.
Well, also, she worked at a zoo, and a random man came in with a chimp dressed as a human.
And she was just like, oh, isn't that cool?
No paperwork, no nothing.
Let's go to dinner. Yeah.
You taught him sign? Like, that was the only thing. And it's like, I feel like there are more pressing concerns here, woman.
I do love the sequence, especially the second one they did, where he's going through the trees, how they show the passage of time with Caesar, like the time lapse thing, him running through the trees and gradually getting bigger, and like this 5 years later, now he's 8 years old and much bigger, and the way they showed that with him swinging through the trees and growing as a like almost evolutionary kind of thing. I thought that was a brilliant way to show that much time passing.
No, it was really good. It
really cool.
Looked like the graphics of this movie have held up pretty well.
For the most part, yeah.
Some of it looks a little like, wonky.
I think the first transition like that looked wonkier because it's in the house and everything. It always looks weird when there's something like fantastical in a pedestrian place like a house.
It looks a little too smooth.
Caesar doesn't move quite right. I think that was more CGI than Andy Serkis's mocap.
Yeah, I think that whole thing where he's like going through the house, getting stuff.
Getting
It was
cookies
way
out
too
and-
fast. Like,
yeah, there's a weird thing where a lot of CGI, it doesn't move right, and that's the thing that feels off about it. But
yeah.
but I like it as a tool to show time passing. I think it's really clever, and I think it's a really cool way to do that.
It's better than just a jump cut.
Exactly. I think this movie, my big complaint with it, and I think it probably is in, as a matter of fact, I know it's in all three of these movies. There's too much fan service to the original. It doesn't take away from the movie. It's a little distracting, though.
I feel like it was very just like background.
It's there, yeah. It's not terrible. I don't want to knock it for being terrible, but some of the stuff it's a little heavy-handed.
Right.
I do like that they show the ship taking off, the original rocket. They're like, oh, this is overlapping. That's cool.
Yeah, but I think it goes a little too far when they show the newspaper that says like "Lost in Space."
Yeah, like they're concentrating on it a little
it's
too
like,
much.
are you giving them a character arc?
Right. And when Tom Felton says, take your hands off me, you damn dirty, like, it's almost like the Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, I'll be back in every movie. It's like, okay, we get it. We don't need this in every movie. Like that's an iconic line from the original thing. And it's like, yeah, we get it. We know this is a Planet of the Apes movie. We didn't have to shoehorn that into this.
I didn't realize until they said that, actually. So
That it was a
I'm
Planet of
really
the
glad
Apes
they
movie.
put that in there. Yeah.
It's just it's one of those things. I just feel like it's fine. It doesn't take away terribly, but nobody in the theater is going to stand up and cheer because they heard that line. And what I really don't like about it is it distracts from the moment, when really the moment is huge, because that's when Caesar speaks, in response to that. And it almost detracts from that. It really walks that line of distracting and taking you out of this moment that is the big dramatic turn of the whole movie. When he stands up and says no, I've seen this movie a bunch of times. I still get like this weird chill because
it's crazy.
It is insane. And can you imagine if you saw that happen? Like, that would scare
the first
that
words.
would scare the shit out of you, man. Like,
and what I love about that is it's teased throughout the movie. If you look closely, like, there are moments where he almost talks, but then he doesn't. And like, it's almost like, when did he learn how to do this? Or like, when did he catch on enough?
It's a slow burn up to it, because you see him, getting smarter and smarter, just a little incremental tick at a time. And you're right. I think it does go back to him with the leash, him with, this idea that he gets a sense of self that a regular animal wouldn't have.
Yeah.
Who am I? What is my place in this world? You know what I mean? And it's almost like an evolutionary step, but actually like a intellectual step forward, like a humanitarian kind of step forward, which is, kind of mind blowing when you think about like an animal realizing what they are, or even wondering what they are.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fascinating to us, because humans are always asking questions about like the birth of man, and also just, we all go through that, like,
this existential
as
kind
babies,
of thing.
Like, we literally, we grow up and we learn about the world, and so to see like animals do that, to see this thing that we see, oh, they're lesser than us, or they just aren't as intelligent as us, to
Right.
to kind of re-examine that relationship, I think is really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. And I don't know. I get what you're saying about, like, this movie should have concentrated on that more. But I feel like it's kind of peppered in there just enough, because at the end of the day, this is an action movie. Or it's leading up to being an action movie.
It's still there. I'm not like, oh, they should have done this. They did it. I wanted a little more philanthropy.
Philosophical?
Philosophical.
Okay.
Words are hard.
I would also like Caesar to have donated a little bit of money to a charity.
Yeah.
And maybe he would have had a better shelter to live in if...
he needs to get a job.
Seriously.
Caesar working at McDonald's.
We appreciate the donation, sir, but we do not accept bananas as payment.
It worked in Donkey Kong.
But, yeah, I know where you're coming from with that. A little bit more of those questions might have rounded this out a little bit more and made it a bit higher level action movie.
Right.
Something like The Matrix, which is actually asking existential questions while doing CGI kung fu. You know what I mean? Like, it can all work together.
It's been done before.
I know I put The Matrix on a higher shelf than you do, but you know what I'm saying. Like,
it's the movie. He does a bunch of flips. There's Red Pill.
Red Pill, Blue Pill.
Democrats, Republican. No, I'm just
transgenders and homophobes. I don't know.
Who knows, man?
It's all there. Switch rules.
One ethical dilemma that I think this movie deals with really well is animal testing. I feel like they really bring that up, and they kind of... It's a lot in this movie. And they both deal with what are the real-world practical effects and benefits that we get from testing. But also, how do we treat these animals, and is there a better way to do it?
It did seem a little extreme to just kill every single chimp on the premise. I was like, is that really? I mean, if you want to ask me how ethical I think a drug company is, no, I don't think that's out of bounds for a drug company CEO
it's
to
not.
go,
I guarantee it's
kill all
happened
these
before.
animals. Well, why? They're not affected by anything. Kill them because it will make me happy. Like this sort of mustache twirling. I think it touches on it without being preachy and without really telling you how to feel about it. It's just showing you, like, I think a really good supporting character in this is the chimp handler, that sort of first guy who gets the disease. Because I think they really show he's not a scientist. He's not developing drugs. He's there to care for the animals because, unlike the guys at the shelter, he actually cares for animals.
In the first scene, they really go out of their way to kind of show him as, like, caring.
Like a nurturing...
Yeah, he's like, do you want your fizzy soda? And
right.
When he finds the baby chimp, Caesar... It's almost sad what happens to him. I mean, it is sad.
It is sad. But it's sad before that, too, when you see that he's a little bit broken because he's had to put down, like, 9 chimps that day.
Yeah, he tells James Franco, he's like, I've done enough.
Yeah, he goes, you want to kill that baby chimp? That's on you.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, dude, keeping a baby chimp is a horrible idea. But if someone told me, if you don't take that home, you have to kill it, I'd be like, Christy, we need to make a chimp room because, yeah. No, I agree that is here. I don't think it goes super in depth about it, and I think that's why I like it. I don't want this movie to preach to me,
right?
But I think it does sort of, in not making a decision and not making a judgment, it does kind of say, like, look, beneficial things can come from animal testing. but also, aren't you glad you're not the one who has to do these things to animals? Like,
right.
I'm not telling people how to feel about it. If you really break it down to me and say, we only got a COVID-19 vaccine because of animal testing, I don't know how I would feel about that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there is this, we benefit from it, but it's also like, this is bizarre and terrible. Yeah.
I have the personal opinion that it could be done better, and it should be much more reserved, like cosmetics testing and like
cosmetics
stuff
testing
like
is
that.
weird.
It's like you are not benefiting humanity
Right.
by putting mascara on a chimpanzee.
But damn, girl,
Caesar looks good.
I like
This mascara.
Caesar's got like the winged eyeliner kind of like. Caesar, that's cultural appropriation.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I think this movie dances around a lot of issues. Treatment not just in labs, but treatment in shelters. The idea of keeping exotic pets in America, in a city, like, that's problematic.
It's dangerous.
It's super dangerous.
Poor neighbor character being trampled this whole movie, like.
I mean, it's like, I love that they did the old thing of like showing that he's a giant asshole, because then you don't feel bad that he's being mauled by a wild animal in his neighborhood, which is like, it almost excuses this idea, but it's like, yeah, James Franco, you can't have a full-grown chimp in suburban San Francisco.
This isn't talking to the character. We know James Franco about your chimp.
Yes. And your body pillow from 30 Rock.
Oh my God. What a reference.
The best jokes on 30 Rock ever. But,
no, but they really show him as like this male Karen when like,
oh, he's the worst. Yeah.
When like in that first scene where his children are confronted by a wild animal that he doesn't know has human-like intelligence. Right. He's totally justified to try to scare it off, and then James Franco's character is like, "You monster!" While he hugs the chimp. I'm like,
but then the guy's also an asshole for attacking John Lithgow. It's like, dude, you have a neighbor with Alzheimer's. Like, don't tell me you don't know your neighbor has dementia or Alzheimer's if it's been an ongoing thing. Like,
that scene is so scary.
Oh, it's terrifying. And you see like Caesar get mad. Like, that's the part that like puts it up over the top too.
His animalistic side kind of comes out.
Yeah. Which is like what Franco, I don't remember his girlfriend's name in this.
Because she's not even really a
character.
She's just kind of there.
Yeah. She's there to just be kind of like, yeah, you shouldn't be doing this. She's like the common sense of this movie.
She's where his morals came from.
But she does tell him, like, soon he will be this super powerful wild animal. Like, you can't, she's kind of hinting like, you can't keep him in this attic bedroom.
Yeah, she's being nice about it, but she does have a real point.
But on the topic of like keeping wild animals, how many apes are in San Francisco?
Not this many.
An army of apes takes over the Golden Gate Bridge. It's like, okay, I understand they have zoos. I understand there are labs. But there's like 600 apes on this.
Well, they show the zoo, and it's like this tiny enclosure, and it's got millions of apes in it. Oh my God,
they keep coming out of there, man.
And then the animal control guy, like, they're confiscating all of these apes. Where are they getting them from?
That's what I'm saying. Like, San Francisco, and I understand people in San Francisco have a lot of money. It's a very rich city. So
the ape market is big.
Maybe that's what they're spending all their money on is keeping apes and, you know, multiple gorillas. Like, how would you keep a gorilla in your house? An 800-pound animal.
Who knows?
But that is somehow the biggest stretch of disbelief that I make in this movie is the number of great apes in
And
San Francisco.
you know what? I'll excuse it.
I do excuse it at the end of the day, but it is the thing that I have to stretch the most on. Because everything else I just accept as part of the world.
Maybe this is an alternate universe where they just have more apes.
Where apes are native to the United States.
To San Francisco.
to California. It could be. Yeah, it could be.
Speaking of all of the apes at the end, I want to talk about Jurassic Park because I get serious.
I think you're getting your franchises mixed up, but
I just get serious Jurassic Park vibes when they're out in suburbia like that, like
like the Lost World, or
yeah, it's like a T-Rex,
yeah,
stumbling through a city. Like it really just gives off like this is something that shouldn't be here, but it is, and it's terrorizing everything.
And what kind of? I mean, how does it? Do you think it's ridiculous and you can't buy into it, or you're saying like that's more terrifying?
It's more terrifying. Yeah, no,
it's like yeah.
I mean, the concept is a little ridiculous, but like the movie, like you forget about how ridiculous it is, and then it's like, oh, that looks like a place I know, and it's
right.
It's being terrorized. It's kind of why like
we'll take it back further than Jurassic Park to like King Kong, which is actual ape in the city. It's just a monster ape,
right?
And also, yes, it doesn't belong there, and it is like. Even way back, 1933, King Kong in New York City is killing people left and right and on screen. Like, it's incredibly violent for a 1930s movie. He's dragging women out of their apartments and just throwing them when he realizes they're not his woman. It's a really, if you can put yourself in that place of like, what if that was in my neighborhood? Hell yeah, that is freakish and terrifying.
Exactly. And I think what adds to that effect of like putting yourself in that situation is why this takes place in San Francisco, in a place we know. It's why disaster movies destroy monuments.
Right.
Like
Roland Emmerich has made an entire career out of blowing up historical places.
Sure.
You know, like for that very reason.
Right. I mean, King Kong, they have the Eiffel... not the Eiffel Tower. Oh my gosh. The Empire State Building.
That's Le King Kong.
It's the better King Kong.
He's smoking cigarettes. He's got a beret and a baguette.
The giant baguette is what he destroys the planes with.
But no, I know what you mean. It's it puts you in a place. A lot of people have been on the Golden Gate Bridge. So when you see all the apes converging on the Golden Gate Bridge for the big set piece at the end, people go, I've been there. What if that happened when I was there? I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very effective, I think, and putting it in a real world place as opposed to, Gotham City, and we all know Gotham City is a stand-in for Chicago, or Metropolis is a stand-in for New York, but
even if this took place in like a rural city, like this could very easily, like it would make more sense to place this story in Africa, like if they have like kind of like an enclosure, what's that called, like a nature
like
preserve.
A preserve,
yeah, like if they had something like that where they were testing, like it very easily could have done that, but then like not everyone can relate to that, so they pick a big city where a lot of people can relate to it and more people just know what that looks like.
Know what that is. It is also because it's an American movie.
Also true.
And because it has to be the start of an apocalyptic event. And if it's isolated on, the African plain somewhere, you don't really buy into, it all spread out from there, because that's not a place that's getting millions of people going through it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's a brilliant cap on the end of this to have the asshole next door neighbor being an airline pilot who
spreads it everywhere very fast.
Very quickly.
Which is a very fun scene to watch during a pandemic.
Really an interesting movie to watch this year. So thanks for bringing us this documentary on our future. But
apes are getting smarter.
Yes,
they're in their Stone Age, actually.
Really?
Very cool stuff.
Yeah, they're using tools.
Yeah.
Soon they'll be wearing pants.
The real test, this is a tangent.
And picking locks with stolen pocket knives.
That's right. My cat did that last week.
Planet of the Cats.
That would be more terrifying because they're just so lazy.
Nothing getting done.
I will say, this is a slight tangent, but one really interesting test of intelligence and self-realization is the mirror test, which in humans, at around 3 years old, we're able to look in a mirror and perceive our reflection as ourselves. See
that it's us, yes.
Right. Many animals can't do that, but there are some that can. Chimps and apes, a lot of monkey species primates, can. Yeah. And then there's also some species of birds, although a lot of birds just see shiny. And then there's, I think dolphins are also capable of understanding their reflection.
Oh, dolphins are assholes. I don't care about them.
I know, because they're smart enough to be evil.
They're the worst.
They choose to be bad.
That's right. I love apes, and all the old like PBS, National Geographic specials about apes, about like Diane Fossey and these scientists who lived with gorillas and stuff like that. They're all great. I used to love that stuff growing up.
It's fascinating.
And you can watch videos on YouTube of like ape sanctuaries, like what we saw in this movie, but like actual like well-run, humane sanctuaries. And
where they're not blasting them with fire hoses. It is really interesting.
You can adopt rescue apes and help pay for their care and things like that. And they'll even have like bios of the different apes, and they're like, we have to keep this one separate because it is very aggressive. And they have some that pair up together, and some that are kind of couples, and some that are just sort of like ride or die squad goals kind of thing.
Right. And that's a great way of owning something without bringing it into your attic to raise.
Right. Yeah.
You adopted an elephant, correct?
Mom and I sponsored an elephant, Rosie, at the Elephant Sanctuary in Tennessee a few years ago. Rosie died a year and a half later. But same thing. You can see all those videos from the Elephant Sanctuary, and you can see your elephants. And
I just think that's so cool.
Elephants. There are. I follow a bunch of them on Instagram of like bird sanctuaries, like Raptor,
sure.
A lot of rehabilitative. So there are some for like exotic animals, and then there are some for just like injured wildlife, where they sort of rehabilitate them, and if they can, put them back into the wild. Kate from Ignorance Was Bliss podcast. She had adopted an owl named Christian. It's a tiny little, looked like a burrowing owl, but even smaller.
Ooh.
But she had done that a little while ago, and it's really cool. And I started following that sanctuary. So sanctuary is, they're really good facilities that do a lot of, you can learn a lot about the wildlife they have there. Good resources.
Maybe Caesar should have started one of those for humans.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. We'll put some of you in these nice. We'll keep you safe.
I kind of do. Spoiler alert. Can we talk about the Golden Gate Bridge scene, the third act action scene?
We can.
Because it struck me how many big action movies, big franchise action movies, whether it's a lot of the new Star Wars, whether it's Marvel. For me, the third act action set piece it always falls flat. Not always. Very often falls flat. They
kind of goes unrealistic.
It goes too big. I recommended a video last year from Film Crit Hulk, of the YouTube channel. It's like The Incredible Hulk as a film critic, analyzing movies. Hilarious. Very, very good. But he was breaking down what makes a good action scene, and that is, it's easy to follow. It's easy to follow your characters. Your characters have a clear objective, and you watch them transform from wanting that thing to getting that thing. You watch them fight their way through, and it's clear to watch their journey. Even multiple characters, you can follow them all, and smaller journeys within that big journey. A good action scene is that. And these Marvel scenes, and I'm going to pick on Marvel because I learned how they do these things, is they will put this giant CGI action battle together, and then they'll build a movie around it. They start with the battle, which is why there's no clear objective to it. It's just people punching shit. It's armies of people.
Usually it's to get the MacGuffin,
whatever the MacGuffin device is,
defeat
right?
the villain.
But even like the characters are not on individual tasks through there. They're just sort of plugged into this big thing. This movie, I think, has the best third act action scene I have seen in a long, long time. Everything builds up to this scene, and we're watching them cross the bridge. So the objective is very clear. We watch the group go down underneath. We watch the group go up. We watch the gorilla fight a helicopter. We watch the horses roll in. Like, everything is very clear. It's easy to follow. And all of our characters have defined goals. It's a brilliant, brilliant action scene. And I love to see a movie end with an action scene this big that is this good, as opposed to the real good part is in, like, I think in Marvel, a lot of times, like, when the band gets together, when they all come together in, like, the second act, and they have the big fight there, that's the most fun one, and then it's downhill. The elevator fight in Captain America, Winter Soldier.
Sure.
Like, that's the high point of that movie, and then it has a whole other act to go. This one, I think, everything, it starts real slow. And it's not even that action movie at the beginning. And then it builds up to this enormous battle on the Golden Gate Bridge. I just think it's brilliant, and I love to see it.
The whole movie kind of builds up this case for why these apes deserve freedom,
right?
Why they're too intelligent, they, like, deserve to be on their own, and then, like, that's what we get at the end, is them making their big break for it.
Making their stand, right.
Because, like, I actually forgot for a second, like, when things were heating up and they go, they break into the lab, they break into the zoo.
Right.
And then they're just, like, going through buildings. I was like, what are they doing again? And then I see the bridge and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Caesar's bringing them home.
Right. They go into the redwoods, which is, it's all great. And that's, I love that, like, even when Franco catches up to him at the end, and he's like, no, these are my people. I'm staying with them, and this is where I live now.
And he understands that.
And he's like, all right, yeah, I should have let you do this years ago.
And what I also love is that the goal isn't to hurt the humans, to attack the humans, anything. They're just going for freedom, and the humans get scared and they try to stop them.
Yeah, there are some apes that are aggressive. Was it Koba?
Koba, yeah.
Koba, that's
who's been
line.
Abused.
Yeah. He's all scarred up. He's all, they even say, like, oh, this guy's been in labs for a long time.
He knows the drill, kind of thing. And like, at one point, Caesar stops. Is it Koba who he stops from killing? Yeah. And then we get the helicopter opening fire, and it's kind of like the shot heard around the world. Yeah. It's like that one casualty that just sparks the flame, and the apes are like, okay, we're not holding back anymore.
That's the turning point
for this,
where you see Caesar kind of go, okay, drop him, and he, like, it's all I think that's another part of that journey. That's part of Caesar's journey through that third act, is him being nonviolent, don't kill them, up to, okay, you pushed me to this, and
Right.
and shoving him up. Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, I can't say enough good stuff about that fight scene at the end. I think it's just brilliantly executed in every single way.
It's so good.
Right up to like having the fog roll in, having Caesar ride that horse out of the fog. Come on, what a great shot!
The
that
sound
is.
of the horse, and
Yeah.
you think it's alone, and then he
pops up on the end. It's like, okay, first of all, you have an ape on a horse, and I'm gonna love that. Like, but
that's already a win.
That's already great. But yeah, him doing it, just riding into battle like that, it's great.
And I also like the end of the pharmaceutical CEO guy when the helicopter crashes, but it's kind of leaning on the bridge, and then the ape is just like, nope, I'm not gonna save you.
Yeah, that's he kind of gives them that little shove off the bridge. It's good stuff.
It's satisfying.
Yeah, it really is. It's a little bit of revenge. It's a little bit it's kind of foreshadowed. I mean, you kind of know that guy's going to get it through the whole movie.
Yeah.
But also, like...
he's such a cartoonish
yes.
villain, almost, about... I'm here to make money, not save people.
Yes. But, like, the part where Koba, he's got that little screen that he's writing on, like the touchpad.
Yes.
And then he writes the guy's name on it. And it's just, like, it's so chilling. I don't remember the guy's name.
Jacobs.
That's it. Yeah. And when he writes it on there, it's like, oh my God, that is terrifying.
And I assume that's just like looking at his name tag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how he learned that name.
It's crazy, but it's
his hit list.
This, I mean, more stuff like that, and this could have taken on a lot more of a horror movie vibe. And I don't know if that would have been good or bad, but there definitely is some real, like that, and Caesar shouting no. It's some real, like, kind of horrific shit in this action movie.
They could have gone there, but I'm glad they didn't, because then it paints the apes as the villains, and they're monsters. Really not.
Yeah, that's true.
Because what I like about this is it's not the end of the world. Isn't the apes. This is just the origin story of the apes and the downfall of humanity, which is really the virus that they created.
Right. It's brought on by people.
Yeah.
By bad science and bad ethics. Right. It's like blaming the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park.
That's a good example.
It's the same kind of and I know it's in the original movie and it's surface level in the rest of them, but I know it's just an airport book, but the original novel, the Michael Crichton novel of Jurassic Park, there's a lot of it that is about having ethics in science, which is why I think that is it's a good science fiction book. I think there's a lot more subtext to the ethics and the business of science in those novels.
Cut to, you were so busy thinking about if you should.
That's it. It's summarized in the movie.
Could.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff about, like, the backstory of sort of these minor characters from the movie, like them going between companies and selling secrets and things like that. But it's the same sort of theme here, where it's like, it's bad science that has led us to this tragedy.
And this, I think, is done far better.
Ooh, wow. Bold words.
I feel like in Jurassic Park, in the franchise, and in that first movie, it's just kind of like a catalyst for things to happen. This movie is about bad science and about ethics and what it means to be human and stuff.
But I think that's what the original Jurassic Park is about as well. Not the human aspect of it, but the bad science aspect. Yes. That's what it all is stemming from, is John Hammond's hubris over what is ethical to do to an extinct species.
Right. I do think the franchise kind of
the franchise for sure. The
fall.
franchise beat the shit out of it, but the first movie,
yeah,
it's all.
It does a good job. I like that movie,
and it's why I like it too. It's why I like that, or I love Jurassic Park. I like some of the sequels. You know what I mean? Like, the first movie is about something. The rest of them are not. You know what I mean? The rest of them are just cash grabs. It's like what Planet of the Apes is. The original Planet of the Apes is about something. The rest of the sequels are not. They're just cash grab sequels.
Right. But these prequels are
but
about
these
something
prequels get
again.
back to being about not the same thing. In some ways it is. Because the original is about humanity and a little bit of existentialism, and I think this gets back to that as well too.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to talk about?
I think we've hit the high points. I just in summary, I enjoyed this movie and I enjoyed watching it again, and it really made me anxious. I kind of wanted, when we got done watching this, I kind of wanted to just start the next one and just watch all three right away, because like it kind of kickstarted or reignited my interest in this franchise and in this trilogy. And when we get done with these three, I'm going to watch the original Planet of the Apes, the Charlton Heston one.
Okay. I think that's what a good first movie in a trilogy should do.
Absolutely.
So I think this movie definitely does its job alone and a part of the whole. And
exactly. It's a great first act. It's introduced us to the players and put them through something already. And I think it's a really solid standalone movie.
It is.
So, good pick.
Thank you. I did not make the movie, but I did pick it.
You did pick it. And I wasn't sure about allowing this because originally we had kind of strict rules for trilogies. Like, it couldn't be 3 movies out of a series. But this 3-movie set, I think, if memory serves, works together as its own series. So I'm glad we chose this, and I'm glad we're revisiting it.
Right. It's Caesar's trilogy.
Yes.
It's his story.
I think that's a really good way of putting it.
And there's not much to say about this in this movie, but I do want to say, keep an eye out for that hand gesture that Caesar learns with the
the middle finger,
asking for forgiveness.
Oh yeah, the submissive kind of
it's a general
goes. I think that goes throughout.
Yes, it's
the whole thing. Yeah,
it gets developed and used further. Like,
and
it introduced it in this movie, and I had forgotten about that, and I was like, oh, that's gonna be useful later.
Yeah. I had kind of forgotten as well that characters like Maurice are in this movie. You know what I mean? Like these aren't just random apes that he picked up at the end of the movie. Like, Maurice is in the shelter with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that Koba, that he was a lab ape in this. For some reason I was thinking, oh yeah, there's a community of apes in the end, and that's where we get to know all the side apes. But it's like, oh no, Maurice is in this movie, the orangutan.
Caesar is kind of developed the most, so it's understandable if you would forget the others, but they do become more important players and have arcs.
I love Maurice.
That continue.
I think he's
great.
He's so cool. And he's
the teacher.
He is actually named after the actor who played Dr. Zaius in the original.
And he was an orangutan too, right?
He was an orangutan. He's right behind you. The Funko
Look
Pop of Dr. Zaius.
Looking very snazzy in his
humans!
In his yellow suit.
I hate humans! Yeah. Love you, Dr. Zaius.
No, let's cancel him for his prejudice.
Yeah.
Human phobia will not be tolerated on this podcast.
Cancel Dr. Zaius. We're getting way ahead of the curve since that's in the future.
That's very true.
Yeah. He won't even have a career.
We'll cancel him out of existence.
We have pre-canceled him. All right. You want to move on to shout-outs?
That's what we do at this time, I guess.
All right.
Why don't you give your shout out first?
Okay. I found a YouTube channel called Bread Sword, and it is a dude who's doing kind of essays about movies, a lot of animated stuff. He's got some anime, he's done some Miyazaki stuff. In particular, I am going to shout out, he does one on Disney's Robin Hood.
The one with the fox.
The fox and the bear.
Okay.
It is a breakdown of that. I mean, he gets down to the colors used in that. But also gives a history of Robin Hood in film and how this weird Disney oddity adaptation of Robin Hood came to be, and why it has endured so long, and why it is some people's touchstone for what Robin Hood is. It's a really, really great breakdown of this. I'll say it. It's a weird Disney movie, but it is one that I enjoyed a lot as a kid. I know our friend Amy Frost is a huge fan of this. I sent her this video link as soon as I watched it, because I knew she would get something out of it, and that's the one I'm going to link to in the show notes.
That sounds really in depth. Is it like a long review?
Yeah, it is. It's he has some that are an hour and a half. A lot of stuff is 45 minutes to an hour. It breaks down not only the movie, but sometimes the production of the movie, sometimes things that were going on at the studio or at rival studios. He has one about I think it's The Road to El Dorado, and sort of how that came to be, and what, the deeper meanings of this. He has one where he reviews every Scooby-Doo movie ever made. I mean,
that's a lot of movies.
It is like 44 movies. I had no idea there were that many.
Gosh.
But I mean, I think he's a really smart movie essay channel. I've not watched everything because I don't know all the movies and stuff he's talking about. But the stuff that I've watched, I've really enjoyed. And that Robin Hood one is just, it's a really brilliant piece of work about kind of a second tier Disney movie. Not second tier quality, second tier as far as famous. Like, people think of Disney as, certain eras. And it's sort of in this 60s era which is, I think, probably the best era of Disney from an art perspective. Jungle Book, Robin Hood.
Is that Hunchback?
No. No, it's like 30 years before Hunchback.
Oh, okay.
101 Dalmatians. All the stuff that they made with pencils and Xerox machines, it's all just from an art perspective alone.
I didn't realize that the Robin Hood movie was that old.
It's really old. It was old when I was a kid, and
oh wow,
it's remained old, but it's a really solid Robin Hood adaptation. Anyway, Bread Sword. Don't ask me why it's named that, but I will link it, and I will link that Robin Hood one. And if you enjoy that, check out the rest of his channel. It's really, really good.
Sounds awesome.
What do you got, Aus?
I am shouting out John the Potter. This is also a YouTube channel.
Is this a weed channel?
It is not.
Oh, okay.
That'll be my next week's shout out.
All right, man.
No, this is a ceramic artist. He has videos on all sorts of things, but it's all related to ceramic art, and he's got a lot of tips, but also just even if you're not into art or ceramics, it's just fun to watch him make stuff and see the process and how things kind of change before and after firing them. And he just recently opened a official ceramics studio because he's been working out of his basement. I've followed him for a while now, and
cool.
he's getting more and more popular. And that's really awesome to kind of see his progress. I
always like to see people who start out in their home or in a room and they get a little fancier setup, but you can see them growing.
Yeah.
And getting, a proper facility, a proper studio to work in and things like that. I like to watch that.
It's the Bill Gates story, that
but,
kind
but
of
you're
thing.
watching it for real.
In
like
real
you're
time,
watching
yeah.
people who really aren't starting with a lot of money and aren't starting in a garage as some symbolic thing.
Right, it's genuine.
They're doing that, and I dig that. I think that's cool.
Yeah, so check him out, please.
Cool. On that note, and those links will be in the show notes, by the way. We want to thank you for listening to this episode of The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rude. If you enjoy our show, please leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps our visibility. It helps us grow the show.
That's right. Another way to help us grow is to tell a friend about us. If you know a movie fan or anyone who likes movie podcasts, tell them about us. Even if they like Apes,
Oh, yeah. Ape fans should definitely be listening to us.
That's our whole podcast, right?
Right now, yeah. Which brings us to next week's movie.
We're going to be continuing the trilogy. So, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That's right.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Feel free to watch it along with us.
Please do. I think if you can watch with us, that helps out a lot. Let's run down our trilogies one more time so people can plan for them. We're doing this Planet of the Apes.
That's right.
October, our Halloween month, we will be doing the Sam Raimi Evil Dead trilogy.
That's right, and probably another horror movie.
We're gonna plug one more in there to round out October, but then,
okay. Then I'm gonna be bringing the Dark Knight Batman trilogy.
That's right, and then we are going to do Robert Rodriguez's Mariachi trilogy, and that'll round out our season.
It should be fun.
Two quick notes before we jet out of here. You and I recorded with TV's Travis on Wait You Haven't Seen, and we recorded an episode about the 2018 psychedelic horror movie.
I was gonna say, make sure you put psychedelic in there somewhere, because it is trippy.
Mandy, starring Nicolas Cage, and I want to shout that out because I don't know about you, Oz. I had a great time on.
It was a really fun movie,
Travis.
And it was. We had a really good conversation, about everything about that movie.
It was a great movie. Travis is a great host. He has a really fun show, and that episode I had a blast on, just with the movie, with the discussion, with you, with Travis, the whole 9 yards. I had a blast with that.
Right, that was part of his Cage-a-Palooza.
Yes,
the month of Nicolas Cage.
Cage-a-Palooza 2021. I was thrilled to be a part of that.
It was wonderful.
And I want to close out by asking everybody out there who has not done so already, please get vaccinated. Talk to a medical professional you trust. Find out what is real and what is a myth about the COVID-19 vaccine. I hate to bring this up on a show that's about movies and apes, but seriously, this thing isn't going away until we put to use the medicine that is here to make it go away. Any concerns you have, please bring them up with a qualified medical professional, not with somebody on Facebook, not with a conspiracy theorist, not with a media personality. Talk to your doctor about the vaccine, and please protect yourself and people around you.
That's very important. We don't want to end up with the Planet of the Apes.
We do not.
As cool as the movies are,
as much as I would love to hang out with an orangutan,
let's not make it a documentary.
I do not want this to be the end result. But yes, I'm sorry for my preachy moment. I feel it needs to be said often. For those of you who have not shut us off in anger, Austin, do you want to share your social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. I am Austin N. Rude, and I am also, if you are a fan of Doctor Who, I have a Twitter account called Old Who Review, also known as Old Horror View. I definitely thought that through. And Dad, where can people find you?
philrude.com. You can find the information on this episode and all the rest of our episodes. You can buy artwork that I do for the episodes, and you can get all my social media handles from there. Aus, you want to read the credits?
Sure. We do everything ourselves.
There you have it. We'll see you next time on The Picture Show.
See ya.